Hello and welcome everybody, and today we start the new series lecture and we will look at the Philidor defense. But before we start, I would like to tell you a few words about the Francis Philidor. Philidor was the greatest chess player on his time, but his formal occupation was musician, and in the 18th century Philidor was a pretty famous composer. At that time, the Italian attacking style was dominated. So giving a pawn or piece for just one tempo was the usual method of playing a chess game. So many encounters were decided this way, not only because of the good tactical and attacking stretch of the players, but also because nobody just knew how to defend. And everybody dreamed only about an attack with a sacrifice. And here came Philidor, who propagated his new style. So in this position, after e4, e5, knight f3, he played d6. So Philidor took the Italian style and made some deep analysis, and he realized that pawn's play probably is the most important in the game of the chess. So pawn's role is one of the most important in the game of chess. So pawns help control the center. Pawns help the storm bastions of your enemy. Pawn structure points you towards what's plan to choose from many opportunities you have. So then Philidor came with his well-known motto, the pawns are the soul of chess, and is clearly an immoral one. Philidor published the greatest chess strategy book, which was translated to the most important European languages, including even Russian languages, where chess was not so important part of the culture, and for the 100 years was considered the most important chess book, without even significant additional or modifications. So Philidor pre-achieved the value of the strong pawn center, understanding of the relative value of the pieces and of the correct pawn formations. So only later on it was developed, of course, the positional rules by Steinitz and by Capablanca, but the way the Philidor solving his problems in the opening shows his way of chess understanding. So he was already so far away from all the chess players in his century. The Philidor defense characterized the main principles of the Philidor strategy. Attack the center with your pawns. Even today, the Philidor defense is it's not so rare guest in the tournament practice, and let's say Grandmaster Baccarat played it quite friendly. So today, what I would like to pay attention, that e4, e5, knight f3 and d6, this is the characteristic point of the Philidor defense. Black is holding to the e5 pawn, but pretending to break the center with f5. What we are going to study in this position that it is not possible for white to play just coolly like bishop e2, because after f5 we really can reach the Philidor counterattack, which is extremely powerful, and I guess that already in this position black is getting out of any opening troubles. So white's only chance in this position to play for a serious advantage is the central attack. So d2, d4 central attack, which leads to the quite complicated position, but according to today's theory, white is getting advantage almost in all variation. Indeed, we have to know exactly the theory, how to reach this advantage, and to know how to answer the very sharp Philidor's counterattack. Because all the idea of the Philidor defense, he said, is first of all, I develop my pawns, because pawns helping my pieces to reach the better position. Pawns help me to protect the center. So only thanks to my strong pawn center, I can reach the equal or even better position. Of course, not always we accept these views from Philidor's. Indeed, very sharp as Philidor's counter-attack is a counter-argument against the white center attack after d2, d4. Would be very interesting to check and to find the best opportunities for both sides. Anyway, like we said before, bishop e2 cannot be played because f5. That's why in such a position, white usually were looking how to start playing in aggressive mood. So one of the most natural, and I would say it, many of players would go for this move is bishop c4, of course. So white aiming at the f7 point, and of course this idea only could work if black is not playing according to the rules and trying something like very strange like knight e7. In that case, knight g5 looks to the much better position for white, of course. What else? Knight f6 also quite dangerous because still the same point, knight g5. So how to protect this pawn on f7? Indeed, bishop c4 has one and serious problem. So black is just playing bishop e6 in that situation. And white's dreams about getting any advantage just disappear. So after bishop takes e6 and f takes e6, black is bringing his knight on f6. Second knight to c6, bishop comes to e7, short castling, and then with good pawns formation in the center, black is just feeling very good after the opening stage. Of course, we can consider here the wasting time move like h6, how many beginners would, of course, react after bishop c4 move. And after knight c3, this typical trap to answer with bishop g4, which could lead to the quite famous legal style combination. So it's not so difficult to find it. Could you find it? What is having a clear upper hand in the center, and the next blow certainly is just unusual one. Indeed, is a winning combination. White has to sacrifice the full queen after knight takes e5, but getting the winning position after knight takes e5, bishop takes d1. So, and usually white aims at the weakest spot in the black's position, the f7 pawn, but at this situation we are just targeting also the black's king in the center. So after bishop takes f7, king e7, thanks to the much better development and control of the center, so white just came with knight d5, and this is a checkmate. Just fantastic mating construction. Absolutely clear that after knight takes e5 and d takes e5 and queen takes g4, black is just pound down with the much worse position, I would say. But once again, black is not forced, of course, to play h6. So h6 is a serious mistake. Black just simply wasting time. But bishop e6 is a correct answer, after which white is having no any advantage. The position more or less equal. So that's why it's important to play here d4. This center attack is the right strategy against the Philidor defense, and this is the best move you have to know. White immediately challenge the black center. So now, in case of E takes d4. This is the act of positional capitulation from black. So white is gaining the clear space advantage after either knight takes d4 or even queen takes d4. The d4, why it's so important to attack the center? Why this central attack is so strong? According to the position rule of Czech Grandmaster Richard Reti, the side which starts the pressure over the opponent's center, like here, after d4, when his opponent cannot respond with immediately counter-attack like d7, d5, which could happen in different opening lines, usually keeps the positional edges. So that's why we already can say that d4 is the right strategy for white in the Philidor's defense. The move like knight c6 allowing white to play bishop b5 and getting additional threat over the black center. So let's back to this position after d4. Black is having a number of opportunities, of course. Black could play knight e7, black could play f5, the counter-attack of Philidor in his famous defense. But let's start with the quite famous game, bishop g4, quite famous game which was played by Paul Morphy. So after bishop g4, what exactly happened here? Black is intending the knight on f3, so it looks like it's not possible to use the d takes e5 idea. So when I ask my student usually what to play in this position, many say, okay, maybe h3, maybe bishop to c4. But of course, the strongest continuation, which also was played in one of the game by Paul Morphy, is d takes e5. D takes e5. So what's the point here? What's the point of this move? The problem for black is that black cannot recapture back. After queen takes d8, there is no pin anymore. King takes d8 and knight takes e5. White just simply wins the pawn without any compensation. So it means that black is almost forced in that position after d takes e5 to capture bishop takes f3. But after queen takes f3 and d takes e5, white is having the queen already in the game, and after bishop c4, black's position already very difficult. White is having two bishops in the open position and better development of all his pieces. According to our rules already, this leads to the quite serious troubles for black. After knight f6 and queen b3, typical move in such a situation. So this is a double attack. Morphy already reached the quite huge advantage already for less than 10 moves. So his opponent played queen e7, trying to exchange the queens after queen takes b7, queen b4, and I guess in normal tournament game, Paul Morphy of course would go for queen takes b7, and after queen b4, queen takes b4, bishop takes b4 check, c3 would simply realize his extra pawn in the endgame. But because this game was played in the entr'acte of the theater in Paris, so and his opponents were not so famous players, he decided just to follow his opponent rules and to play knight c3, avoiding trading the queens and trying to continue developing very aggressive pieces to the better outpost. So after bishop g5, look, black is having additional problems. So what to do about the knight on f6? After b5, of course, it's no time for moving away the bishop to e2 or to d3, but to sacrifice. And knight takes b5, c takes b5, bishop takes b5 check, knight bd7, and once again the greatest move, long castling, connecting the rooks. So all according to our rules. Black is a very tough situation, played rook d8. One more simple combination, instead increasing the pressure, let's say after queen a4 or bishop takes f6, Morphy simply demolishes black's position after rook takes d7, rook takes d7, and rook d1. Already sacrificed the full rook, but black is completely hopeless in such a situation. There is no way to stop bishop takes f6 and bishop takes d7 forthcoming. After queen e6, Morphy here came with a great combination, and I believe it's not so difficult to find it. Can you find it? I guess yes. Definitely white could simply trade the queens after queen takes e6 and bishop takes f6 and just winning the rook on d7 with the 2 extra pawns. Call it for a win very soon, but here we have even much easiest, brilliant solution. Bishop takes d7, knight takes d7, and queen b8. The greatest finish of the game, Morphy against cancels. After knight takes and rook d8, this is a checkmate. So after that game played by Paul Morphy, nobody used bishop g4 anymore. Even later analysis shows that black somehow could improve his game. It's completely crazy just to go for such a position already in the opening. So without two bishops and without any counter player, only trying to play for some defense, there's no point in. So after e4, e5, knight f3 and d6, d4. Before we start with the classical attempt knight d7, of course, we have to check what exactly happened after f7 and f5. So now, if white plays e takes f5, then after e4, black is doing quite nice. Let's say knight g5, look, that bishop takes f5, bishop c4, d5, close these diagonals and bring the knight on f6, send away the knight from g5. So, where white's advantage? It's no advantage anymore. Any better for white. D takes e5 is also leads to very unclear position after f takes e4. When I analyze this situation at home, I just came to conclusion that white has no time for doing all this e takes f5 or d takes e5, but much more important in this position, of course, to play bishop c4, intending knight g5. So because black completely opened up the position in the center, and especially all these diagonals, h5, e8 and a2, g8, it's extremely important for us to take the initiative and to play for the direct attack. That's why we call this central attack. So black's Philidor counterattack after f5 is a dubious attempt to change the evaluation, wall evaluation of the opening. Bishop c4. So as I said before, white is intending knight g5, at the same time posing his bishop towards the strong open diagonal a2, g8. F takes e4. For a moment, black's position looks okay, but of course not for playing knight g5. We just started all these complications. Knight takes e5. This resource helping white to keep the initiative. The main problem that, of course, white were not intending to play knight g5. After day d5, white is reaching nothing. Only black is now playing for advantage. But after knight takes e5, this is a great solution. Black now faces a tough choice to pass or to accept this knight sacrifice. So first of all, let's see what happened after black is trying to avoid the immediate disaster after d takes e5. d5. Black is trying to close the soft spot, but the trouble comes from another side. Definitely, as I said before, weakness of the h5 e8 diagonal. Queen h5. The queen is reaching the best attacking spot. g6. Knight take g6. Sent to the fact that the pawn h7 is pinned, white blows up the black's king side. Only move is knight f6. Definitely h takes g6 is losing immediately after queen takes h8. So knight f6 is absolutely necessary. In that case, queen e5 check. King f7. Easy to see, knight takes h7. h8 check. Bishop e7 is also not solving any problem. After bishop b5 check. c6. Knight takes e7. Queen takes e7. Queen takes e7. King takes f7. And bishop e2. So, time for white to swap all the pieces and to keep just simply pawn up without any compensation from black side. Next, white is going to play f3, open up the position, so this bishop is going to be developing on f4 or g5, knight could go to c3, extra pawn and better position for white. What else you would like to ask for? In case d5, now we know the solution, and what happened in case of d takes e5. This is the most important, of course, line. So, what happened if black is accepting the sacrifice? The answer is pretty easy one, and black's king will be drawing into the deep end. D takes e5, queen h5 check. That is the main point of the combination. Now, king e7 leads to the immediate disaster after queen takes e5 check and queen e6 checkmate. So black's only answer here is to go with the king to d7. Queen f5 check. This is very important move to remember. So it's so important to draw the black's king to c6 where it will be totally vulnerable. After king c6 and queen takes e5, white is coming with all his powerful pieces. Finish black's king in the center. So after queen e5, white is also intending queen b5 and bishop f4, also intending d4, d5 and bishop e3, also intending queen takes e4, so many threats, also intending to bring the knight simply to the center. Black is trying to play a6, also preventing white from playing queen b5 check, also trying to move the king from the dangerous zone. d5 check, king b6, bishop e3 check, bishop c5, bishop takes c5 check. So look, all is forced. Black had just no time for bringing his queenside pieces into the game. Thanks to the bad position of the black's king in the center, white is just playing with the same style, ready to sacrifice the pieces and pawns, but to keep the initiative, to keep the attack over the black's completely opened king. b4. So the final accord. Now it's time for white's pawn to take part in the attack. King takes c4, queen c3 check, no time for black to capture on d5. After queen d2, the queen is gone, so additional tactical surprise. And after king b5, and there is a few options how to checkmate, but of course the simplest one is a4, king b6, and queen c5. So black's naked king got into the mating net on the queen side. So just very tough journey from e8 to d7 to d6 to c6 to b6 to c5 and once again to b6, and the game is over. So already this simple lines show that old move f5 cannot be recommended. So we just already could make the conclusion that after e4, e5, knight f3, d6 and d4, central attack in the Philidor defense cannot be answered by f5. This is the old attempt of the Philidor to destroy white's attack in the center. Cannot be played because of bishop c4. Very strong, very powerful move. So at home, please take a look once again of all the lines we were studying, because after f takes e5 you are taking a risk in this position to sacrifice a piece. Of course it's not so big risk, because I just show you all the solutions, all the right moves order, how to win in such a situation, how to finish the very successfully attack over the black's king. Indeed, I would recommend you once again repeat this lesson in your home, and only then to take the central attack against the Philidor defense as your main opening weapon. So what we are going to study on our next lesson. Of course, after e4, e5, knight f3 and d6, d4, black's best continuation in this position is go to knight d7. That's exactly what we are going to look at in our next time. So after knight d7 there is no direct way for white to sacrifice the bishop on f7 or to reach some other direct threats, but of course bishop c4 is the most natural continuation, where we are going to move our bishop to the most active, most aggressive outpost. So only later, I would say in the early 20s of the last centuries, this position analyzed greatest Aaron Nimzowitsch, and he showed us that it's not necessary for black even to think about the moves like bishop g4, e takes d4 or f5, but maybe possible to start some counter-attacking move like knight f6. Unfortunately, even here still black is not equalizing, and this once again shows that white central attack deserves much attention, and this is the main weapon repertoire against the black's Philidor defense. That's why Philidor defense today is not so playable opening line, because of this central attack. Thanks everybody for watching our first lesson about the central attack in the Philidor defense. We just studied how to react in the situation after black's trying to pin our knight bishop g4, in situation after black is trying to follow the f5, the old move by Philidor, or we call it Philidor's counterattack, and now we know exactly why this is not so great continuation. Next time we'll pay more attention to the move knight d7 and the move knight f6, and we'll study the standard ideas of the classical Philidor defense and how black is trying to stop white's central attack in this old opening line. If you have any question, you can contact me on www.chesslessons.wordpress.com, and I will be happy to answer all your questions. If you have some special game which you'd like to share with us, also you can send me, and I will post in. See you next time. Bye.